Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this edition of Safety Speaks with Taryn
And Darren.
at the South Carolina Trucking Association. Today, we're going to talk about getting to know the new hours of service regulations, those 4 changes that go into effect on September 29th.
Yes.
We're going to break it down into the 4 parts, so you'll see us 4 times.
That's right.
All right.
And we hope this video will inform you and be helpful to you. So the 4 areas that we're going to cover is the 30-minute break, the short haul exemption, the split sleeper berth, and the adverse condition rule. All that are very common and very useful in the transportation industry today.
Yep. Hopefully, all of these changes will help save you time and money, make things a little more flexible for your drivers, and for you getting things from point A to point B.
All right. So when we start talking about the hours of service and the new rule changes, we know Part 395 covers fatigue driving and hours of service. So we got to figure out who this applies to. So how do we get them in the book is what we would say in the DOT world.
That's
so,
true.
Remember, it applies to people who operate in interstate commerce. So that means that you're crossing state lines like South Carolina into Georgia.
Or hauling goods that are still in interstate commerce.
Yes, which would be
From the ports.
from the ports. It originated in China, and the final destination is
Greenville.
Greenwood. Yeah, Greenville.
Yeah.
And so it comes into the ports in Charleston, and then somebody puts it on a truck, and then it goes from Charleston to Greenville.
Mm-hmm.
Still in interstate commerce. Wow.
Still applicable.
Also, the definition of a commercial motor vehicle, when we start looking at gross combination weight ratings or gross vehicle weight ratings, is 10,001 or more pounds.
Correct.
So 10,001 or more pounds is a commercial motor vehicle that gets you in the books as well.
Mhm.
And then hauling placable amounts of hazmat.
Correct.
So just remember that is what constitutes a commercial motor vehicle, and these rules would apply to you. Okay.
Right. Any questions about those? Let us know.
All right.
All right. First up, we're going to talk about the 30-minute rest break.
Okay.
We're going to cover what the current rule is and then tell you about the new rule.
Okay, so I think the easiest way to do this, you be current on this one, and
I can
I'll
do
be
that.
new. Okay.
All right, so the current rule, as you should all know, is that you have to have a 30-minute rest break after the 8th consecutive hour of your entire workday.
Correct.
So the time that you clock in by the 8th hour,
Yes.
end of the 8th hour, you need a 30-minute break.
Right.
If you take that break too late or too early, too early, then you're going to end up having to take a second break, which is, it eats into your total overall hours for the day.
Right.
And that 30-minute rest break had to have been completely off duty, not under dispatch, could be in the sleeper berth, could be at a rest area, etc.
I'm glad you brought up too late. That is a point. Because if you take it too late, then guess what? I have nowhere to stop and take
Correct.
it, or I just forgot to take it. Now I'm in violation.
Yeah,
So,
you kind of need to plan ahead.
that's right. Trip planning.
Mhm.
All right. So the new rule says that you must take a 30-minute break once you have accumulated 8 hours of driving. Okay.
Big difference.
So once you have accumulated 8 hours of driving,
Right.
then you have to take a 30-minute break. And one of the changes is it used to be off duty and sleeper berth.
Correct.
Now you can take that 30-minute break while you're on duty, not driving. So you can now, under the new rule, take your 30-minute break off duty, sleeper berth, and on duty, not driving.
So let's talk about that on-duty, non-driving. That technically applies to anybody who may be waiting to get loaded, correct?
Correct.
If you're not having to move the truck, but you're parked
Correct.
and you're waiting for your slot at the dock, that could count.
That could count. One of the things we need to be mindful of is dropping and hooking, or even maybe it's just one pallet and it took you 30 minutes. So you got to remember, how can I take a 30-minute break if I'm loading or unloading,
Mhm.
especially if you're participating in those activities. So you got to just be mindful so it doesn't bring up a lot of questions during the audit. How could the driver take a 30-minute break and he said he's loading, unloading, and fueling all in 30 minutes?
It's a lot.
That's a lot.
You're not taking a rest.
You're not really taking a rest.
You know, we do need to stress that the hours of service changes really have to do with driver fatigue.
Right.
We're constantly trying to reduce driver fatigue without nitpicking someone's actual biorhythmic sleep schedules.
Got you. So I think if we can show them some examples of this,
We
that'd be
can.
great.
So here is the current rule of the 30-minute rest break. with a break around 1
It's
o'clock.
Yeah.
Yep. And then the new rules would actually be the break driving after 3. So remember, it starts at the time you start driving, not at the time you clock in
Correct.
for your work day.
Right. That's current rule.
That's the current rule is
Okay.
clocking in. The new rule is after you start driving.
Correct. Right. So let's talk about some impacts of the 30-minute break. So, again, no need to stop work activities. Remember loading and unloading. Now that you can do it on duty, not driving. So if I'm loading and unloading, let's just take dropping hook. It might take me 15, 20 minutes. Depends on a lot of things. Where I'm dropping and hooking, the ground, how fast my landing gear arm twists, and that kind of things. So, I might need to show, 45 minutes or maybe an hour. It just depends on what's going on. Vehicle inspections is something we do, so it's kind of hard to take a 30-minute break and be doing a vehicle inspection. So some drivers do their paperwork during that time. Remember, the object is to prevent fatigue.
Right.
So you need to get away, take a little quick break, like we need to do in front of our computer sometimes. Just take a 30-minute break and step away from it. Remember, off-duty and sleeper berth, the rest, that's pretty much where they would like to see it. But just remember, you might be in a break room of a ship or a consignee. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, it's a really good time to make a phone call home.
Yeah.
Or check your email.
Yeah.
Or Facebook.
Gotcha.
Or hashtag TruckProudSC on any one of our social media.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
30-minute break is pretty self-explanatory. Just remember the current rule.
The current rule is as you clock into work within 8 hours, you have to have a 30-minute break.
Correct.
And it has to be off duty.
Off duty, right.
And the new rule?
The new rule says that once you have accumulated 8 hours of driving, you now have to take a 30-minute break, and the additional option to take that break is on duty, not driving.
Correct.
And you still have the sleeper berth and off duty.
Correct.
Okay. What are some next steps we can take to kind of prepare ourselves for this new change? One of the biggest keys is going to be what?
Education.
Training, what we're doing now.
That's right.
So hopefully this video helps. We kind of informally did this, but we wanted to make it to where we can relate to you guys so we understand. There are going to be some things that come up that you probably say, well, what do I do in this situation? You can always call us, but training is going to be key.
Yep.
Not only for drivers, but for
Safety and dispatchers.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
We want to make sure too that you guys as companies are doing the training so that the chatter or the rumor mill doesn't take over. I mean, like we talked about before, the FMCSRs are the Bible for the trucking industry.
Right.
So you need to make sure that your drivers are listening to that.
Yeah. Update your policies, procedures. Remember, the whole goal is to prevent fatigue.
Correct.
And I always state that, the rules and regulations doesn't say the driver has to go to sleep.
Correct.
The driver must rest, so we need to make sure we reiterate that to drivers. Hey, look, if you're on a 34-hour, if you're on your 30-minute break, get some rest. You can come off a 10-hour break and still be fatigued. So you got to make sure you're getting the proper rest.
Correct.
Okay?
Well, we hope we've answered all of your questions about the changes pertaining to the new hours of service regulations.
Yes.
If you have any questions, you can always email us.
Yep.
We'll put those up now. And I'm Taryn.
And I'm Darren.
Thanks for joining us.
Yes.
Stay safe.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.